friends, thanks for sticking with us. We're still here in our LCT Health Wellness Lounge because we're talking about how to keep your kids safe. We just talked about toy safety, and now let's talk about one of my favorite times, bath times. Back with me is Tiffany Lee. She is an outpatient nurse practitioner when it comes to pediatrics at Manning Family Children's. Thank you so much for being here. Look, we were talking during the commercial break. 36 weeks. You are about to pop.
I am.
Congratulations once again. And this is something that's going to be in your wheelhouse as well, because look, I love bath time, like I just mentioned, and your biggest tip when it comes to our young kids, supervision is key. What does that look like?
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is don't leave them unattended. Ways to do that is touch supervision is kind of like a guide. So basically you always have one hand on your small child at all times. That means you can hold their back, you can hold their arm, whatever you want to hold. Just keep one hand on them, and that lets you know that you're always supervising that child.
Right. When it comes to them washing themselves, do we also still try to keep one hand on them as well? Or then we say, okay, now that you're able to wash yourself, I'm not going to supervise you, but I'm still going to supervise you.
Yeah, so a lot of times if they're able to wash themselves, then they can sit up by themselves, they can do a lot of other things. So you don't always have to have that one hand on them, but you do still have to be present and be in the room. A big tip is leave your phone outside of the bathroom.
Okay. Well, first you don't want it to fall in the tub.
Correct, but also we get very distracted by our cell phones, and so you can always leave that in another room. If you're nervous that you're going to miss a call or miss something like that, then keep it on loud, but have somebody else there with you that can take over if you have to answer the phone call or something.
And what age group are we talking about here, right, when you do have to use touch supervision? And then what age do we start to see, okay, kids can now wash themselves, I don't need to supervise my young child?
So really isn't about the age, it's about the development of the child.
Okay.
So obviously your babies, if they're in those baby bathtubs and stuff, they always need touch supervision, and they need somebody in there. Your toddlers also need somebody in there. If you have a 4 or 5-year-old that doesn't know how to swim, you should always have somebody in that bathroom. So we're looking at those that are development, you're looking at your development. If you can swim, I'm not saying leave them in the bath by themselves the entire time, but if you have to step out for a second, it's a lot safer for a child that can protect themselves in the water than a child that can't.
And the same thing goes for when it's time to switch from maybe a bath to a shower. Looking at the age of that child, looking at the development, can they stand up by themselves? Do they know how to work the tub and or shower? That all goes into trying to figure out when they can go on to the next thing.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, you say not only is obviously supervision important, but also the temperature of the water and how much water we put in the tub?
Yes, so temperature is very important. They say less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Because a hot booty, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I remember.
So a child's skin is a lot more sensitive than ours. So what is hot to us is, very hot to a child. What seems cold or lukewarm may be hot to your child. So a good thing is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. They make bath thermometers. They make toys that are bath thermometers. So you can check the temperature and then let your child play with it in the toy, and it's still safe. There's a lot of options to make sure.
But what's interesting is that last bullet point. I'm sure a lot of people watching at home is like, wait, don't use bubbles. That's the whole reason why my child wants to get in the tub. Why should we not use bubbles?
So bubbles they actually can cause UTIs.
Really?
Yes. So it's a very common cause of UTIs in children, and kids' skin's sensitive. So you may go into clinic, go see your pediatrician in 2 days and be like, my child has this rash all over. I don't understand what it's from. Things we're going to ask: any new bubbles, bath bombs, soaps, all this stuff, any new things on your child's skin, because they can cause rashes because kids' skin's very sensitive.
So just do the plain water?
I know it's boring, but it's safer for your child.
It is sure. We want the child to be safe at the end of the day. Speaking of safety, you say be on the lookout for those bath seats and rings and the loofahs and the sponges. Why?
Yes. So bath seats and rings are very helpful in keeping your child safe, but they're not a replacement for you as a parent. So just because your child is in a ring doesn't mean you can leave the room and leave them unsupervised. Loofahs, sponges, they harbor bacteria. So again, we kind of talk about those infections and those rashes and things like that. If you're using the same loofah, the same sponge over and over and over again, you're cleaning your dirty child and then that bacteria is sitting on that sponge and on that loofah. So you're reintroducing that bacteria.
That's good for the adults as well, okay? Hand towels only. And you know, it's important that we talk about bath safety because there are conditions like dry drowning that unfortunately a child may end up getting because of non-safe bath practices. But I'm so curious, like, how do we promote good bath time in a child if they don't want to get in the bath, especially if there's no bubbles?
I think, you know, your child's not always going to want to do what they're supposed to do, but make it as less traumatizing as possible. So don't, you know, force your child every single day to take a bath. We should communicate with them and have open conversations with them and say, you know, we have to take a bath because we need to be clean, and get toys. Just because you can have bubbles, they can have toys.
Fair. The ducky is your best friend.
The ducky is your best friend. And so, and then when they get to a certain age, let them try to be independent. So if you have a 2-year-old that is adamant about cleaning their body, let them clean their body first and then just go over and do a little scrub after to make sure they're really clean.
Come on, great tips. Look, thank you so much for being here. Let's get that bacteria off of our young kids, okay? And look, everybody, if you have more questions about this topic, head over to that website. Once again, manningchildrens.org.